Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We are going to continue our journey in discovering a little bit more of this amazing language every day. So yesterday we talked about 能上能下, which is basically to give yourself permission or open yourself up for the possibilities in life that sometimes go up, sometimes go down. And you have to be able to go with the flow, basically. And today we continue with 上 and 下. 上下其手 or 上下其手, actually. Okay. 上下其手has double meanings. I will show you later on of the historical and the contemporary meaning. Okay, 上, I call it this time upper and lower, which is giving you a more accurate sense of it's the direction that is pointing. Basically, it's somebody's pointing up or pointing down. So that's upper and lower, pointing toward the up, pointing toward the down. And again, we have the baseline, horizontal line, and then we use this vertical line placed above or below to exactly mean above or below. And it has both static and dynamic meaning. Static means it's already positioned over there, up on top of something or below something, or dynamic, it's going toward upward or going downward. So two ways. And 起手 or 起手, okay. However, I guess you can pronounce 起手 as well. 上下其手. But yeah, 上下其手, 起手 is more commonly pronounced. You can see the tonations is not that fixed either. We can do it either way. Okay. Simplified Chinese get rid of the bamboo sign, but originally this symbol came with bamboo. We have, if it's upward turning, it's grass. If it's downward turning, it's bamboo specific. So you can see the importance of bamboo in our culture. It got its own symbol. It's not an average, it's not covered by an average grass or plant. It's a special type of plant, and therefore the leaves of bamboo kind of pointing downwards. So I guess that's kind of depicting how the leaves of bamboo looks like. So this is bamboo, and the middle is sort of like a container, and it's interesting, like somebody have to draw a cross in between the container to show it's closed container. It's okay, so this container, according to the scholars, is a type of I guess made from bamboo. That's the material. That container was used to measure the grains, because, okay, for agrarian society, every year, farming, the end goal is to produce surplus of your crop so that you can sell it, right? It's not just for your self-consumption, better make some extra money so that you can use that to exchange for other goodies. So this selling of grains at the end of the year gotta be a kind of a common practice back then. And people use kind of standardized the container to measure. So when we measure things, we can measure by weight or by volume, right? By weight, you have to use the, okay, Chinese way to measure weight is to use a scale, kind of like in the Western concept, right? So there is a balance point, and then you have a weight on one end, and then the other side, you're measuring on the other hand, right? And then you through placing this weight on the stick at the different locations, and you kind of test out like what's the balance point. That's the weight you're measuring. So you can see weight measuring is a lot slower. You have to do this thing, like adjusting to match it. No electronic weight, scale back then, of course. So this volume measuring become more efficient. You just make sure you fill it up to the line, and that's the volume, and that's you're going to sell. That's the transaction point, right? So this symbol over there, to my view, is exactly that kind of container that's going to measure your crop. And okay, the bottom, I don't know exactly what the bottom is. It looks like a stand, so people don't have to bend over. So it's people conduct this business of measuring a grain on top of table. So I view it as a table stand. So the whole thing is crop measuring. And eventually you can see the bamboos got rid of, and the contemporaries, we only have this portion and the two legs of the stand. And we get rid of the cross lines, because cross symbols we don't normally see in contemporary Chinese. We have very, very occasionally this diagonal lines. So this eventually got horizontalized as well. So this measuring of crop practice then becomes a referral of the volume of things that we're talking about. And eventually that's referral of the things we're talking about. So when we have a container thing, a lot of times that container lost its original context of it's the grain, the crop that we're measuring. The container becomes the meaning that carry on with this concept. So it becomes a container of concepts. And without saying what that thing is, it becomes a placeholder of something. Because in English as well, we call, in English, these are small words. They don't really have like a specific meaning to it. Like 手 is, we know exactly what that is. Some words function as a container to capture. It's like a variable, right? It's not a constant. So in math concept, so this variable can contain whatever things you want to put in. So this is one of such container words, and it does came from such container of crop measuring. And this container words in the concept of, historic concept of how this phrase came from is a he, it's a he's. Because it pairs with hand. So, I mean, if it's a hand, it's somebody's hand, right? And so this qi is like a container, like that somebody is non-named, anonymous somebody. But of course, like we didn't say the full name, but things happen, the story that somebody who is pointing the fingers up and down, that he got a name, but in the phrase, for the sake of space and efficiency, we don't spell it out. We just use a container, like somebody's hand. So basically, it's like a somebody's hand, right? And somebody happened to be a he, so it's a he's hand. So hand, there's nothing fancy about it, 5-finger hand. And the only weird thing is, I don't know why the top finger, the middle finger, is bended over like that. I don't know why, but otherwise it looks like a hand, just like this, with the top finger bend like that. I don't know why. Okay, anyways, 上下其手. Okay, the historical context of that, there are two meanings, right? One is fraud, because okay, there were this wartime around 2,000 years ago, 2,000 years from today. At that time, war happened, and then a leader of the enemy got captured. And on your side, there are two. So one is like a military guy, a general, something, and the other one is the son or the brother of the ruler of that regime. So there are two persons, at least, claiming that it's them who captured this enemy's general. Okay, so they have to, they cannot convince each other, right? They have to seek a mediator to say, to give a final judge of who actually captured the general, so that they have more medals on their chest, they can puff a little bit higher. So this judge would be the, well, it would be kind of the think tank or the brain of the nation. That's get advisors, I guess, advisors to the ruler. So he would he was perceived as a just person who is also in a powerful position, right? Because he's an advisor to the ruler. So when he came to the case to sort out like who is actually captured, the one that should be attributed with this honor of capturing the enemy's leader, he have to talk to the captured enemy general to ask him, can you testify like who actually captured you, right? Simple as that. So when he was doing that kind of in front of people, right, it's a kind of public, semi-public, I guess. It's not really for the outsiders to see, but at least in the courtroom of their the emperor's court or something like that, that he has to conduct it in front of people, right? And without saying it out loud, he has to point fingers to give a clue to the enemy's general what he's talking about. So when he was talking about the ruler's brother, he pointed a finger up. When he was talking about the military guy, he was pointing the fingers down, so that the general can see, okay, so when he was pointing up, that signifies it's somebody who is in an upper position, like a hierarchy of this, not exactly dynasty, but this regime, okay? And then pointing down is a lower rank. So the general understand what's the sensitivity over here. So he kind of played together with this advisor to say, okay, it's the ruler's cousin or brother that captured me when it was against the truth. It's a false testimony. But because of this finger pointing of up and down, he got the message, like he got to say somebody who is ranked higher to attribute that honor to this higher ranking ruler's brother. And so that everybody is happy. I mean, especially the ruler's brother, right? It's unjust, but this is what people do in a regime back then, that they're not really seeking truth. They are just trying to make peace, and especially make more powerful people at peace, right? So this is the origin, and eventually people use this signaling of pointing upward and downward his hands to mean it's nonverbal cue, so that you're not giving out the truth. You're kind of signaling somebody. Together, you're giving a false testimony. So you're kind of cheating in that sense. So I translate it as fraud. But okay, in contemporary sense, that becomes groping. In this attention economy era, capturing your audience attention is essential, right? So media, I think this expression came from Taiwan, who I guess we can use the word. Then before the mainland China, it's more about attention capturing, right? So they are using language that are more provoking, that are more sexualized almost, right? To describe what's happening. So 上下其手 actually, because of this finger pointing upward, that's the original meaning, to give a signaling, right? Then it becomes the context of a man touching a woman inappropriately on the upper body and lower body. And that's kind of corresponding to 上 and 下 as well. It's not pointing upward and downwards. It's the upper body and the lower body. And people just fill out the blanks. It's like this is a perfect use case of an ancient expression that's 2,000 years old and used in a contemporary media paparazzi context to become a groping message. And eventually, 上下其手. Then to simplify Chinese language users after, I don't know, 30 years of opening up and have this media entertainment accustomed to that groping sense become the dominant message or the dominant meaning. When a Chinese user come across 上下其手, the first reaction is like, oh, that means groping. I mean, these days, so many such things, it lost its sex appeal, right? It lost its scandalization function. When we see it, it becomes groping, yeah. But then the original meaning of 上下其手 means a fraud, a crime committed, not exactly fraud, at least a cheating. That meaning was lost. I mean, most language users, like without me checking this, I probably don't know the historical context of that. So imagine 2,000 years of language use. Within 30 years, that meaning was recaptured, repurposed, and the original meaning, majority of the current language users lose track of. They don't even know the second layer or the original meaning. Only know is this means groping. That's the sad but reality of language. It's eyeball grabbing. Yeah. Okay, cashing into the currency of thinking about one word a day. This will be soon that a day.